My wife, Mandy, drives just over 8,000 miles a year, mostly on short business trips to see clients. Our detached villa in Surrey is close to the hellish M25 motorway that loops around London. It's a good place to live, but even a short drive along the M25 can take a long time. Mandy's method of beating traffic jams on the M25 is snacks and soft drinks while she listens to bubblegum radio. It helps that she loves her bright orange Volkswagen Beetle convertible. This is a completely new version of Volkswagen, with a powerful 2-liter engine, a modern audio system, a black soft top, and black leather seats. Most people agree that it's a great little car, but that hasn't stopped her from cluttering the inside with candy bar wrappers, empty drink containers, and other odds and ends. I find it funny that she drives a car designed to have a top speed of over 120 mph and spends most of her time either standing still or crawling along some of the UK's most congested roads. Mandy's first car as a university student was an old Volkswagen Beetle, and she told me she had fond memories of that car. This was before she met me, and in those days she lived at home with her parents. I didn't ask her, but most likely her pleasant memories are associated with sex in the cramped space of a bug. When Volkswagen reinvented the Beetle a few years ago, she kept talking about how much she would love to have one. I took the hint and bought the top-of-the-range convertible she wanted for her 50th birthday. Also bought a personal registration number that she was supposed to have. It was an absurd amount of money for a license plate with her initials and the letters "Bug" on it. The car became known as the Baby Bug, but despite her affection for the car, Mandy didn't bother checking the tire pressure and fluid levels in the Baby Bug, so I did it regularly. Some people don't mind driving around in a car full of junk, but I can't stand a dirty car, so I also cleaned out empty cardboard boxes, paper cups, food wrappers, and other trash. There was nothing special about it, and I never mentioned it. Mandy never thanked me, probably because she didn't even notice. But I didn't mind because I always found enough change in the trash to buy a couple of beers at our local pub at the end of the day. It's not surprising that Mandy was a little careless with her change, considering we both make good money and have a comfortable standard of living. Mandy is a business consultant who helps a variety of companies develop strategies for developing and growing their businesses. I am a freelance project manager specializing in change management projects. Everyone calls me Terry. My real name is Dave, not Terrence, but even my wife calls me Terry. Why? This is short for Terminator. Change projects almost always result in some poor bastards quitting, and it's my job to do the dirty work. Mandy and I met at university where we were both studying business administration. We got along so well that before we got married, we set up our own limited company, Alpha Business Consultants Limited. Although we were young and relatively naive, we received some useful advice and financial support from my father, a respected commercial lawyer. Unfortunately, my father is no longer with us. He died of illness a few years ago. When we started the company, he agreed to become a director, and it was his active involvement that gave us the seriousness we needed to come to the negotiating table with potential clients. In return, we gave my father several shares of the company, and he was always ready and willing to share his skills, knowledge, and experience with us. In the early years, Mandy and I worked hard to build the business for our company, ABC, by building a client base that needed consulting support for strategic business planning. However, after a while, we realized that our skills were completely different. Mandy is good at helping companies plan for the future, while my strength is solving problems in the here and now. Her specialty is planning what people want to happen, and my specialty is solving problems when things don't go as planned. Both Mandy and Dad felt that ABC needed to clearly define its focus on strategy rather than implementation. So we agreed that I would work separately as an independent consultant specializing in managing organizational change projects. Mandy continued to work at ABC as the only employee. Our twin daughters, Linda and Lucy, left home a few years ago and are now both at university. But when they were children, I set up a room on the ground floor of our house as an ABC office and put a sign on the door. Office. Mandy or I could go in there and work without interruption. It gradually became Mandy's office because I work mostly in the field with clients, and she mostly works out of the office, from home. She had about 50 key clients, and she charged fees for her consulting services as those clients needed her advice. Unlike Mandy, I rarely had a full-time business, although I received referrals and regularly worked as an assistant for a large, well-known management consultancy. Typically, I would only have one client at a time, and I would work with them over a period of weeks or months, managing a major change project such as an office move or an organizational restructuring. After finishing a project, I usually took a break for a few days or even weeks before a new assignment came up. Not knowing what will happen next can be daunting for many people, but I got used to it and enjoyed taking breaks to read and improve my cooking skills. It also gave me time to do most of the routine maintenance work around the house that didn't require a professional. I also cleaned the fish tank in Mandy's office regularly. She read somewhere that a large aquarium with lots of brightly colored tropical fish helps with her thinking process, so she just had to have one. She liked the aquarium, but she was not able to bother with its maintenance and upkeep. She probably thought that PH was just two random letters. So in the end, it was me who looked after the well-being of the fish. I never complained about being left alone when Mandy was away on short business trips, and she never complained if I was away for a week working on a site in another part of the country. In fact, I think our personal lives benefited from these occasional absences, especially after our two daughters left home and we were left alone. I hope that once we became empty nesters, we could spice up our social lives by going out more often, maybe even taking a romantic weekend to Paris or Rome. People plan, but the gods laugh, as they say. Everything changed when Mandy came home one day with Little Doug. Little Doug is a Shih Tzu, also known as a Chinese lion dog. Every time I see him, I'm reminded of the joke about the guy who went to the zoo where there was only one animal, a dog. It was a Shih Tzu. I was a little annoyed that Mandy got a dog without consulting me. Little Doug was friendly enough, but I knew right away that I would eventually have to take him on walks and look after him when Mandy wasn't around, and possibly even when she was. When she got him, he was just a puppy and needed to be house-trained. So guess who got the treat? We didn't call him Little Doug just because he was small. For a while, he wrote anywhere and everywhere. Mandy adored Little Doug. He was literally her dog, sitting on her lap every chance he got. She caressed him as he lay next to her on the sofa while she watched TV. He sat on the chair next to her when we sat at the dinner table, and in the morning, he could invariably be found lying on our bed. I tried my best to dissuade Mandy from allowing Little Doug to roam freely around the house, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. To keep our love life from going off the rails, I had to lock the bedroom door if I wanted my wife to be alone in the bedroom. But even then, I remembered to unlock the door and open it afterwards. Otherwise, Little Doug would howl at me from behind the door, and Mandy would be howling at me inside the bedroom. This Sunday afternoon was no different until a piece of paper fell on the floor next to a plastic bag. I noticed that it was a credit card receipt from the Ainsley House Hotel, a huge country hotel located about 20 miles from our house. Like many large rural hotels, it has a reputable restaurant, but the main income comes from the spa and conference center, where seminars, wedding receptions, business dinners, and other events are held. There were no details about the purchase, but the amount was what you would expect for lunch or dinner for 2 or 3 people. I assumed that Mandy was treating clients, so I decided it would be better not to throw away the check in case she needed it, and I stuck it in my wallet to give later. I put all the snack wrappers and other debris in a plastic bag, tied it up and threw it in the trash, then took the little bug to the local garage to get gas and check the tires and fluid levels. The next day, Mandy was leaving on a business trip north and would not return for several days. I was between assignments and had a lot of free time. I was hoping to take her to lunch at the Fox and Hounds pub, but she said she was too busy preparing for her trip. I was disappointed by this because Sunday has always been a family day for us. Our daughters continued this tradition by calling us on Sundays, so I was not surprised when I returned from the garage to find Mandy in the living room with her feet up, clearly engaged in a long phone conversation with Lucy. After listening to the end of Mandy's conversation, I realized that Lucy was having another crisis in her personal life. Linda is the calm and quiet daughter, while Lucy is the drama queen. When their sleepovers with guys got serious, I tried to stay calm while still showing them that I cared about what was going on in their lives. They know that we are both there for them if they need help or advice, but if they want to gossip or cry, their mother is usually first on the list. What I did get was that Mandy was telling Lucy to forget it, to get back to everyday life, that there were lots of fish left in the sea, and that she should try before you buy. I don't know what happened, so I didn't know what advice I would give Lucy. I think the Latin motto festina lente is generally a good approach to problem solving. Hurry up slowly. Give yourself time to think and then decide what you want to do. No matter what happens, Lucy herself must decide what to do next. I didn't want to do my part and make her even more confused. So I just asked Mandy to say hi for me and went into the kitchen to prepare Sunday lunch. Our standard Sunday meal was roast beef and Yorkshire puddings with chips, and I found it therapeutic to put it all together, especially when I had a decent bottle of claret to go with it all. At dinner, Mandy was in no mood for conversation, although she did fill me in on her phone conversations with Linda and Lucy. Linda is in a steady relationship with a nice guy, and she was going through a good period in her studies, getting good grades on her last assignments. Things weren't going so well for Lucy, and her boyfriend dumped her after he noticed her kissing someone else. I expressed the opinion that Lucy's boyfriend might forget her kiss with someone else if he was given time to change his mind, but I doubted that there would be any way back if Lucy decided to try possible replacements in the meantime. Mandy had a very different view and seemed to think that Lucy should just forget about the relationship and look for somewhere else to have fun. After dinner, I took little Doug for an evening walk, and after making sure the little black plastic bag containing his poop was tightly sealed, I threw it in the trash can outside. Later, I sat in the living room for a while, watching TV, while Mandy went into her office with little Doug to finish preparing a presentation for her client. I loaded the dishwasher and went to bed, where I tossed and turned for a while before falling into a restless sleep. I was vaguely aware that Mandy had gone to bed much later, but when I woke up in the morning, she was already up. Instead of my beloved wife, I found myself face to face with little Doug, blowing his stinking dog breath right in my face. There's nothing like a Shih Tzu's morning breath to get you out of bed in half the time. I quickly got dressed and took little Doug to his morning toilet before joining Mandy in the kitchen. Neither of us like mornings, and Mandy always needed a couple of cups of espresso before she could start her day. We chatted briefly about the weather while we waited for the stop-start rush hour traffic on the M25 to end. Then she kissed me on the cheek, petted little Doug affectionately, got into the little bug, and went on her way. It wasn't until she left that I remembered the receipt in my wallet and decided to leave it on the desk in her office. It was at this point that I noticed that the check was cleared at 10:18 a.m. Most likely, this is payment for an overnight stay. But this did not make sense. Maybe she had some kind of business event and didn't want to go home. I could ask her later and there would probably be some simple explanation, but I had some free time and decided to check my diary to see where I was that day. It turned out I wasn't home that week, but I noted in my diary that Mandy was due to go north for 3 nights. The check was issued the morning after she left, so it appears she only managed to travel 20 miles before spending the night at Ainsley House Hotel. If she was at a business event, I could easily drop her off and pick her up, and she wouldn't have to pay for an overnight stay. I sat in her office staring at the receipt. I didn't notice anything unusual in her behavior. We still made love regularly, but I couldn't help thinking that this could be proof that she was having an affair. I was shocked by this possibility, but most of all, I was puzzled. I had absolutely no idea that she could be intimate with anyone else, and I had no suspects. I also found it difficult to understand why she would need to book a hotel room when she could simply take advantage of my regular absences and have fun at home. Of course, maybe she did both, or maybe there was some completely innocent reason why she was staying at the Ainsley House Hotel that evening. As I sat there trying to wrap my head around what might be going on, It dawned on me that she might be doing the same thing on her current assignment. I took my cell phone and dialed the phone number on the receipt, hoping that my suspicions were unfounded. I asked the nice woman who answered the phone if she could connect me with their guest, Mrs. Amanda Carmichael. She said she was very sorry, but she couldn't do it. I was briefly relieved, but instead of saying that there was no reservation for that name, she explained that Mrs. Carmichael had not yet registered. Check-in starts at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and now it's only 10:30. "Would I like to leave a message?" she asked. Of course, I could leave a message like this. "Your husband called. He wants to know what the hell you're doing there." This would have been nice, but it probably wouldn't have given me the answers I needed, so I politely declined her offer. I made myself another cup of coffee and considered my next steps. Unlike the idiots at the helm of our country, I was not going to waste time hemming and hawing, avoiding resolving the issue, or inventing my own version of reality. Going to the hotel and meeting Mandy might not solve our problems, but at least I could take immediate action, no matter what the consequences. Perhaps there is a plausible and completely innocent explanation. On the other hand, maybe she has a bull and she's hanging the horns on me. I decided that I would have to take the bull by the horns. I put little Doug out in the garden, figuring I could clean up after him when I got back, then got into the car and headed to Ainsley House Hotel. It was already midday when I pulled into the hotel, and I immediately noticed a tiny bug in the parking lot, so Mandy had probably already checked in. I parked 4 rows away and called Mandy on her cell phone. She answered almost immediately. "Hi, Terry. How are you? I just heard that there was a serious accident on the freeway, and I wanted to check if you were okay." Traffic is a little difficult, but I didn't know there was an accident. It's on the M25, so you might have gotten through before it happened. Oh yes, I'm just passing Watford. Thanks for checking. Okay, let me know when you arrive safely. Okay, bye. After listening to this nonsense, I decided to take a walk around the hotel and see if I could surprise her. Maybe she's having lunch with her lover before they head out for the afternoon. If she's not visible in public areas of the hotel, I'll call her room and ask if I can go up to chat with her. I entered the hotel and headed to the Brasserie restaurant. There weren't many people there and Mandy wasn't visible. I decided that the lobby bar would be a good vantage point, and before calling her room, I would sit for a while and see if she and whoever she was dating would show up. I still wondered if there might be a remote possibility that she was there for some other reason and just hadn't bothered to tell me what she was up to. As I crossed the lobby, I noticed a large notice board listing the various function rooms and events happening that day. Looks like Monday was a quiet day. The only event that caught my attention was the private party at the Spa and Fitness Center from 7 p.m. I wondered what kind of private party could be held at a spa or fitness center. Perhaps these are people who want to take advantage of the amenities without being burdened with clothes. Maybe my wife has become a member of a naturist fitness group. I asked the reception about a private party. The receptionist looked slightly confused by my question and then politely said that she could not provide any information about the private party. In other words, it's none of my business. I settled into the lobby bar and ordered coffee. The waiter who served me was much more forthcoming when I asked him what the story was about the nudists at the spa. "Yes, you could probably call them nudists, but that's not all," he told me. "It's probably one of the worst-kept secrets, but this private party is a regular event held by the local club of couples advocating open relationships." "Wow, sounds tempting," I said with false enthusiasm. "Any ideas on how I can find out more?" "Easily. If you have internet access, just search for Bottoms Up Club." I took a sip of coffee, took out my mobile phone and went online using the hotel Wi-Fi. Finding Bottoms Up Club online was not difficult. If you wanted to attend any of their events, you had to join the club and accept its terms and conditions, but the annual membership fee was only £20. The club's Mellow Monday Mix and Pick evening event, priced at £49 for single men, took place at 7 o'clock in the evening at the spa of a local hotel. The website outlined how club members should dress, including advice that masks were optional. By this time, I was sure that Mandy had checked into the hotel because of Mellow Monday Mix and Pick. She seemed like she wanted to have some fun that evening, so I decided to try and catch her in the act. I didn't want to see my wife having sex with strangers, but I wanted clear evidence to use in a divorce if that's what she was up to. My plan wouldn't work if she caught me sitting in the hotel lobby, so I finished my coffee and went outside to get into the car. I pulled out my cell phone, called Bottoms Up Club, and spoke with another nice woman who processed my payment and explained that I needed to bring an ID to be admitted to the event. She said that my personal information would not be disclosed to third parties, including other club members. You can buy condoms and a variety of masks at the event, but I could bring my own if I wanted. The club's name will not appear on any records of transactions. The vendor name will be listed as SJB Services on all purchases. I returned home to do some homework, check that little Doug was okay, and get dressed for a meeting with the Bottoms Up Club. I still wasn't absolutely sure I was backing the right horse until I checked our finances online, including ABC bank accounts. Unfortunately, my horse looked like a winner. Over the past year, periodic payments were made to SJB Services, presumably for Mandy's membership and various events she attended. I printed out bank statements. Returning to the hotel in the evening, I waited until 8 before heading to the hotel spa. An attractive middle-aged lady in a floral dress sat at a large table in the spa's reception area. It turned out that this was the same woman with whom I spoke on the phone. She checked my ID and sold me a mask and some condoms. I had no intention of using condoms, but I had to keep up appearances. I guess I looked a little nervous and she tried to calm me down. Just go to the gym. You're a little late, so you may have to wait to join, but I'm sure you'll have a good time. Our members are very social and will make you feel welcome. If you are not sure about something, please ask, and they will not let you down. I put on my mask, walked through the door, down the aisle, past the locker rooms, and into the gym. There were about 70 or 80 people in the room, and the organizers tried to create a warm and welcoming atmosphere. The heating was on and the lights were dimmed, no doubt to encourage those present to shed their clothes and cast aside their inhibitions. Soft jazz played through the sound system, loud enough to provide background mood music without making conversation difficult. There was a table with refreshments just outside the gym door, but the action was happening elsewhere. I counted 8 large mats covered with white sheets placed throughout the room, and around each mat there were grouped people, fully clothed, partially clothed, or completely naked, with or without masks. Dressed in a jacket and trousers, I was perhaps overdressed for the occasion. But I needed to remain that way if I wanted to have a chance of getting what I needed. The first group I tested observed a pair of thin young women exploring each other. The audience muttered approval. The next group included 2 older couples, their pale, plump flesh rippling and glistening as the 4 tried to grab each other. It struck me as nothing more or less than a strange, nightmarish vision of a sumo fight going very badly. In the third group, I found my wife, naked and sweaty on a rug against the far wall, in the company of 2 young Asian guys. She wasn't wearing a mask, but even if she had been, I would have recognized her. Mandy has a small turtle tattoo just above her left ankle. Another 8 or 9 spectators watched and occasionally commented or encouraged the 3 participants. Fully dressed and wearing a mask, I had no intention of saying anything that would give away my presence to her, so there was no chance that she would become aware of my presence. I concentrated on secretly recording what was happening on the video camera of my mobile phone, which I stuck out from the cuff of my jacket into the palm of my right hand. I signed a confidentiality agreement to get in, but I wasn't going to let that stop me from getting the evidence. Mandy's face will be clearly visible, and I can blur out the faces of third parties later in the video. Standing next to me was a white, middle-aged man wearing a black shirt and black pants. He was happy to give some comments on the competition. I have no idea if this was intended for anyone else, but it seemed like everyone could contribute. "It breaks like a house door in a Force 9 storm," he said, stating the obvious to no one in particular. There was a pause, and then he added, "Just look how she got into this rhythm." "Yeah, she really likes to handle 2 or 3 men at once," said a naked woman who appeared to be Mandy's age, hugging a naked man of the same age. She looked back at the man in black. "We've been with her a couple of times," she added, clearly showing off her knowledge of the subject to him. "I'm sure she'll be glad if you want to join." "Sounds tempting," replied the male commentator. Part of my mind screamed in misery, but I locked it away in a dark corner. The other part of my mind was clear and focused and working to obtain evidence. So I knew there was a good chance that I had managed to record both visual images of Mandy in action and comments. Whatever my state of mind, I had seen enough and wasn't going to stick around and watch. The woman at the spa reception was surprised that I was leaving so soon after arriving, but I told her that I forgot something and would be back soon. To say I was upset would be an understatement. I tried to come to terms with the fact that Mandy was having fun with a bunch of strange men. Our special relationship was completely devalued and, as a result, worthless. I was in shock, but after leaving the hotel, I began to experience physical and mental reactions to what I had just seen and heard. Nausea and an empty feeling filled my stomach, and I felt bile pooling in my mouth, almost like food poisoning. At the same time, I experienced an overwhelming feeling of sadness, so deep that I had to sit in the car for some time before I could drive home. Slowly, my mind began to build a barrier around resentment, sadness, and grief. It wasn't any easier for me, simply because I knew all about the process of managing change under adverse circumstances. I wasn't going to waste my time in denial. She had sex with others. After all, I saw it with my own eyes. Of course, I was angry, but I accepted the inevitability of change, and I needed to respond to it, make adjustments as a result, and control the process of change to the extent possible. Grief and anger would be close companions for some time, but I decided that I would take action now. I wanted to be ahead, not stuck in a rut, trying to understand cause and effect. By the time I returned home, I already had an idea of how I could take action, control the inevitable changes, and work towards the results I wanted, not those that were imposed on me. I waited and saw if I would feel the same in the morning. Festina lente.